Welcome to the Better Two podcast. I'm your host, Donna. Today's guest is Steve Smith from The Vapors. You may know The Vapors. They had that song called Turning Japanese. We talk about that and we talk about their upcoming tour of the US, as well as so much more. So tune in. Hi, Steve. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. And before we got on air, you were talking about that you're rehearsing today. Is this for the upcoming tour?
No, this is actually we're playing a punk festival in England, in the north of England, in Scarborough, which is
Nice.
a well. No, I'm not going to say anything about Scarborough. It's a northern town, and it's a punk festival, and so you've been rehearsing for that. We haven't done a punk festival for a while, so we have to tailor our set a little bit differently and play a few different songs.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, you have to know your audience, and you're not going to play certain songs that just would not resonate. And I would assume that a punk audience, you have to hit it really hard,
Yeah, that's our basic idea. Hit them
which
hard and hit them fast.
which is smart, which is very smart. So, I this morning I was looking at your video for the human race. What made you come up with that concept?
Well, to be fair, it was the people who made the video that came up with the concept. Um, I just remember being so cold that day, and we were outside for about 8 hours in the cold, and it was just. I'm sure it doesn't show, but
No,
it was
no,
really cold.
you guys look comfortable. I mean, but I will say at a certain point you kind of were standing around there in the video, like I could see this, like, are we done yet? But it wasn't totally. It was just one of those things where it's like, if you paid attention, it was just kind of understated that, yeah, are we finished with this yet? But
Yeah, it was like about 15 minutes of doing stuff and about 8 hours of just standing around.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been an extra on movie sets, so I completely understand that. Hurry up and wait. That's the best way to
Yeah.
say it. So you have been in the business since 1979, and you took a hiatus, at least from the Vapors, because, I mean, from what I understood, the band didn't have the support of the record label. And I know without the support of the record label back then, you didn't have a career. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. Well, when we were looking to sign our record deal in the UK, we had a couple of labels interested. One was Polydor and one was United Artists. They're both offering very similar deals. But United Artists they were all on one floor of a building. There were only about, I think, between 15 and 20 people working the label, but they had worldwide massive distribution. They had some great acts like the Stranglers and Dr. Feelgood, and they had a reputation for sticking with their acts. If their first album didn't do so well, they'd stick with it. And so we went with them, which was definitely the right thing to do. But within 6 months, the whole label had been sold to EMI, one of the biggest corporates in the world, and all the people from United Artists had all been fired. So we went from a label where everyone was into what we were doing and behind the band to another label where they didn't even know who we were really. And this was actually about the time that Turning Japanese was just becoming like a big hit in the UK. So it was a bit of a bittersweet time really. And then we were on a label where we were just very little fish in a very big pond.
And I can understand that. I had an artist, Tracy Bonham, who did the song Mother Mother, and she hit it big. And in the middle of writing her second record, the record label was sold, just like with you. And
Yeah,
it didn't fit. She didn't fit in the category of who took over the label. So it's like, where do you find yourself? Where do you find yourself going? And it has to be kind of a disappointment, especially, as your song is taking off, to find yourself with no support because back in the day, the music companies were the record companies were supposed to be the supportive ones. They were supposed to be the ones that lifted you up and promoted you. And if you don't have that support, then what? But
yeah.
I mean,
It,
go
it
ahead.
was disheartening. It was disheartening.
Well, and I have to say, it must, it's kind of a amusing thing when you think about it, though, because in the long run, that song still to this day, people know it. And
Yeah, it
not
still
many
resonates. It
and not many
still
people get
resonates.
that. Not many people get that.
Yeah, I remember thinking back in the day, when I was a kid, even what makes a song. Some songs come and go. Yeah, they can be number one, but then a year, 2, 3 years later, you can't remember them. There's some songs stick around, and I could never really work out why that was. But I'm glad that Turning Japanese seems to be one that has just stuck around.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it has some kind of. The only thing I could come up with is that these records sounded like quite timeless.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of the ones that are become classics, they don't really seem of a time. They were just classics, aren't they?
Hmm. And even some of just the lyrics in that song, sex, drugs, and wine and women, that's still something that people deal with today. They still are. So it kind of still plays well.
Yeah, it takes people back to a time,
Hmm.
and probably a time when they were in their late teens or early 20s, and that song was kind of everywhere for a summer, wasn't it? It
Oh yeah.
was, and it just takes people back. It's nostalgia. It's a very powerful thing.
Well, and that's what I wanted to kind of talk about because you have the song Proud out on the new record, Wasp in a Jar. But it kind of ties into your song that was written back in 1980 called News at 10. And I kind of, when I listened to both of them, because I did that, it's like when you listen to News at 10, you see the person going through these struggles in life and not really stepping out. They want somebody to be proud of them, but they're not totally doing what they need to be doing. And then you're hawking back to proud of looking for that moment. At least this is my interpretation. I'm not the writer, but of looking for that person there that was there a long time ago to be proud of you, but you're now looking for them and they're not there because I would assume that they passed. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
but yes, that is correct. Yeah.
And so that had to, I mean, it's interesting because yeah, when you started this industry, you were a young man and now you're an older person. And so you, as with most things, we grow and our music changes and we change. So was this part of these lyrics part of a personal experience of searching for those people that wanted to be supportive but they weren't, and now you want to look back and go, so are you proud of me?
Well, Dave wrote the lyrics. He writes all the lyrics.
Hmm.
So that's probably a question
For him.
you should ask him. But I know what he would say. He would say, "It's whatever you think it is. It's whatever you want to interpret it as. Don't let me just send you down a certain path." That's what
Understand.
he would say. That's what
I
he would
just
say.
Yeah, I saw the interpretation that somebody said that turning Japanese was dealing with masturbation, and he was like, well, I don't know where that got started at, but if that's what it means to you.
I know exactly where they got started. It was the very first time we went to America. We went to America, which was I think in September 1980. And one of the very first interviews we did, the journalist said, "So, turning Japanese, that's English slang for masturbation." And we all looked at each other, and I said to him, "I can honestly say I have never ever heard it used in that context ever before." And that's true. I'd never heard the phrase turning Japanese until I heard the song Turning Japanese. And it's just this mad thing that was cooked up in America, I think.
Well, I was talking to Lamal because he redid Horse with No Name, and when I was doing my research because I grew up listening to that song, and I read that it was banned in places in America, and I'm like, why? Well, apparently horse was slang for heroin.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Of course, I was too young at the time to even know to that, but I'm like, what? So yeah, but it wasn't banned
Weird.
anywhere else.
Yeah, that is weird. What about crazy horses?
Exactly. I mean, songs sometimes don't age well, and we've known this, but that a horse, yeah, I didn't get it. I still
Now, that is bizarre. It's not a drug song, is it? It's a horse
no.
song.
Well, actually, if you really read the lyrics, It could be considered a
Okay.
drug song.
Oh, okay.
If you start really reading the lyrics, it's kind of like somebody might have been on a trip when they wrote it. It's
Oh,
possible. It's
okay.
possible. But anyway, so when we talk about, there's another song I wanted to actually talk about, which was Jimmy Jones. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because it's about Jim Jones and the cult. And I know here in the States, we find ourselves with a cult leader. No names mentioned. But really, that song would still resonate today because we basically some of the things you were that was described in the lyrics in that song apply to what's going on in the world today. We're looking for people to fix things that they're not going to. They're just
Yeah,
going to lie and make
yeah,
money.
yeah, yes, and ultimately it all ends badly.
Hmm. But nobody sees that. And so that's why when I was really looking at it, it was like this song, even though it was written so long ago, and yes, I remember Jim Jones, it still applies today because we are living in the cultish world we live in.
Yeah, yeah, in all fields, in cinema, in music, it's very cultish.
Well, and when I was talking to Ray I guess about a month ago, he and I were talking about the fact that you used to have fandom. You used to have like the Beatles fandom, all the fandoms for music groups, and we don't have fandom anymore. It's different. It's not the same as it used to be because nobody, you hit, we'll say Turning Japanese came out today. You hit big, and then like 6 weeks later, everybody's like, so what happened to them? There's no staying power now, where before you had that staying power. So I guess my question to you is, for being in the industry so long, how have you managed? Because I know you kind of have stuck with music, either being a sound engineer or in other
Yeah,
bands.
yeah.
How you've seen the changes. How have you managed to say, okay, I'm going to stick with this no matter what?
I think just because I'm continuing to make music that I really enjoy listening to myself,
Okay.
and new music that I enjoy listening to myself, and that's what kept me going all the time was the belief in the music.
And that's the thing. And I've talked to a couple of people about this. If you know where your passion lies, then no matter what you're doing, as long as you're doing it, then you're happy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it'd be nice to make a little bit more money,
Yeah.
but or some, but but yeah, I love listening to the music that all the time that I've made over the years. For me, it has to really excite me. Otherwise, how is it going to excite anyone else?
Do you still get excited playing Turning Japanese?
I do because of the audience's reaction. It's people go crazy for that song, and you can just see the joy in their faces, how much they're enjoying it. So yeah, I still love it. And
Well,
that song's taken us all over the world. We wouldn't be talking today if it wasn't for that song. And I won't say anything bad about it. I mean, it was a great production that Vic Smith did on that, and a fantastic sort of timeless production. And it's a sort of perfect pop record, really.
and I wouldn't want you to say anything bad about it. It's just one of those things that sometimes people ask, doesn't
Yeah,
it get
yeah, for
old
sure.
playing that same song? But when you see the gift that song gave you, that it gave you the ability to do what you're doing now and to
Yeah,
come back and to still play to audiences that thrive when they hear that, that's a total gift and it's a
yeah,
blessing.
and it's a joy.
Hmm. So I'm gonna segue real quick because this isn't, and we talked about this off here. Normally I don't ask scripted questions, but Rich, my sound guy, as he put it when he was typing this out, was I'm having my fangirl moment. So he asked me to ask you some questions. So it's like, what did you play on Nuclear Days? I love the bass tone and turning Japanese and prisoners and magnets. So what did you play?
I played a Rickenbacker 4001 bass through a high watt amplifier, and I think a Marshall speaker cabinet.
Okay. What is your current setup?
I have a Rickenbacker bass still. I have an Ashdown, which is a British make, 115 500-watt combo, and a 4x10 Ashdown cabinet.
All right.
It's the
Uh,
Tower of Power.
where were those records recorded? What studio?
Nuclear Tony Japanese was recorded in a studio called Roundhouse Studios, and that was recorded differently to the rest of the Nuclear Days album. We did the backing tracks in it's Portobello Road. It used to be Island Studios. It's where Bob Marley recorded
Hmm,
um, so many fantastic, famous albums recorded. It was called Basing Street Studios. It's off Portobello Road in London. We did half of Nuclear Days there, and we did the overdubs in a studio called Townhouse in Shepherd's Bush.
okay. What is your go-to signal chain?
Um, I'm not sure I know what that means.
I don't
I
know
think
what he means, but
I think maybe I only have a couple of pedals. I have a tuner pedal, an Ampeg simulator pedal, and an Ashdown distortion,
okay.
and that's it for me.
And see, while I play bass, I haven't really played bass in like 20 years. Um, so he still plays bass and he taught his son how to play bass. So yes, he's a bass player, so this is another. And final question. If the studio was on fire and you could only grab one piece of gear and a microphone from the studio, what would it be?
But it'd be my Rickenbacker bass for sure, and the microphone. I don't know. Probably an RE20,
Okay.
which is it was I used quite a lot for vocals, but it's a fantastic all-round microphone.
Okay. So my question to you is why the Rickenbacker?
I don't. Do you know what? I don't really know. When before I joined the Vapors, I was in another band, and I think I was playing a Fender Precision, but I hankered after a Rickenbacker. I don't know. It's maybe because so many of the punk bands were using them at the time. They were quite ubiquitous back then. And I just hankered after one, and then just all of a sudden I had enough money to get one. So I just took the plunge, and initially I didn't get on too well with it. Really, they're not basses if you want to play hard.
Yeah.
You have to treat them with a bit more. You can't you can't just thrash away at a Rickenbacker. It chokes the kind of it chokes the sound off. But after I knew how to play one, then I've just always liked them ever since then.
I
Great. I love the sound of them. I love the sound of them.
They're good. I mean, when I was looking at buying a bass, I did look at a Rickenbacker. I really wanted a Kabiki, but I didn't get that either. I ended up with a Yamaha BB300, which is a basic bass. It's not anything spectacular. It does the job, and I still have it to
Yeah.
this day. I don't. I think I've played it once, a little bit, about 5 years ago, but I just haven't played in a long time. And I used to love to, but yeah,
Yeah, you
well,
need to get a band together just for fun. Once a week, just rehearse for fun.
it would be good. It would be fun. I have so many other things now. It's like I just, yeah. Nah, after moving and stuff, it's like I haven't had the chance to do that. So I want to talk to you also about Together Again. It is the perfect song to be the last song on the record because you are together again. You have reunited and you've brought everything full circle. And I know this that you will continue to record because you basically, from what I understand, is you still have music you're working on, new stuff.
Yeah, we're always working on stuff. Yeah, it's true.
And
And we
so
like we like to keep it fresh. We like to keep feeling like we're moving forward. And what's the next great song? We're still searching for that perfect song.
I do have to ask. I'm going to go back to the punk festival because this kind of just came to me. How does it feel going? Are you guys kind of considered part of the old school punks, and you have the newer punk groups coming in? So, is there certain amount of respect you get when you play these events from the younger musicians?
I think a little bit just from being around, from the era that inspired them and still be here and still do it. I think you get a little bit, yeah.
Because I know the Sex Pistols have kind of reformed and they're playing over there in the UK. I've seen that. So I would say with them and you, I would think that they would have to have that respect because otherwise, like you said, they wouldn't be here. You have that whole hierarchy, unfortunately, to say it that way, but you guys paved the way for them to continue this on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true.
So, when you look at your favorite albums, I was digging through some of that stuff. Hunky Dory by Bowie is one of your favorite albums. Why was that?
It's just the songs. It's just fantastic songs and quite whimsical, but yeah, just an all round great album and a little bit ignored in in terms of Bowie's great albums, in my opinion. But
Well,
whenever I put it on, I just you play it from beginning to end.
yeah. And that's the thing when it's a good record, you're going to do that. The one Beatles record my parents had and I still own it is Rubber Soul. And I
I
know
love
that
that.
was yeah, that was one of your favorites and it was like I still have it. Granted it's packed away somewhere, but I still have it too. And it was a great record. It was.
Yeah, it was the Beatles just just starting to expand out into different spheres and just embracing creativity.
When you back in 2016 is when the internet started really talking about you guys reuniting. How did you feel about that? I mean, after all this time has passed, what makes you think at 20 in 2016 that, the fans want us back? How do we do this? How did you come together to say, all right, it's time to come back and start making music again and start touring? What made you decide to do it?
Well, Dave was working as a lawyer for the Musicians Union, and how long ago are we talking about now? So that's what, 9 years. So he was just a couple, 3 or 4 years from retiring, and he got offered early retirement. And he kind of liked the idea of that. But his wife, Branka, said to him, well, I don't want you sitting around the house, getting in my way, getting under my feet. You need to do something if you're going to stop work. Why don't you get the band back together? So he went, oh, okay. And he emailed everyone and said, look, I'm interested in having a meeting with you all. And Howard, the drummer, the original drummer, had just had a young child. So he said, look, I'm really not up for doing any musical stuff. But myself and Ed, the guitar player, we went and met with Dave and we had a little chat about it. And he said to me, I just really just want to have a good time now. That's all I'm interested in. And I said, well, okay, that's pretty much what I was going to say to you, that I just did, let's just have a good time. And that's how it started back. And then I was doing a charity gig with, I play in a sort of punk new wave covers band called the Shakespeareos, which I've been doing for about 15 years now. But we were doing a charity gig where we were like the sort of house band for a variety of different singers. And the promoter kept phoning me up and saying, you're going to have to get the vapors down, get the vapors to come down. And in the end, I went, look, okay, I'll text them, I'll text them. And I messaged Dave and Ed and said, look, this charity gig wants us to just come and do Turning Japanese. Are you guys, you can come and do it with the Shakespeareos? And they both said yes straight away. And then we did that one song. Somebody posted it on the internet and it just went crazy. Thousands and thousands and thousands of hits and people going, this is great. And not long after that, we got an offer of 4 gigs in Dublin, London, Liverpool, and Wolverhampton, which is near Birmingham. And so we just went, why not? Let's give it a go. I
How
mean,
did
I remember saying, "Is anyone going to come and see us? Does anyone remember us?" I've no idea. We had no idea, but it went well, and we just kept getting offered gigs, so we kept doing them. And as long as that continues, we'll keep doing gigs.
is there a lot less pressure now on you to do it? I mean, you said you want to do it just for fun. I'm sure as a younger guy, when you were forming the band, it was all about getting that record deal, getting everything in place to have that hit record. And now you're saying you want to play for fun. Did this mindset come from being in the industry for so long or just being of a certain age that you've gotten to the point where it's like you understand the trappings that of what the potential the trappings of fame and everything, and you understand the peace of just doing what you love.
Yeah, I think it's more just to do with life experience and just knowing what what do I want to get from this, and I just want to get enjoyment, whether that's from the music or from the gigs, or but just try and enjoy all of it because you never know when it's going to stop.
Yeah. And I mean, to it for somebody like I can imagine what it was like seeing that video kind of get sent around and people recognizing the song, and here you thought nobody would remember you, but yet everybody does.
Yeah, that was a shock to me. But particularly in America, although the song in terms of chart position did much better in the UK and Australia, it seemed to have permeated the consciousness of America and sort of became part of America in 1980, which I'm eternally grateful for.
Which is funny because I mean, yeah, I'll age myself. I was in seventh grade, so about 11 or 12 when the song came out. And I remember it more from me being in high school. So 15, 16 years old, which would be 3, 4 years later. I remember it
Right.
more then than when I was little. Now, if you ask me eighth grade, the one song I do remember is Gary Newman, The Cars, in
Yeah,
Cars. I remember that because that was just like so different at the time. But Turning Japanese, I remember as I got older. I think it became much more a cult classic and continued through that vein in numerous years.
yeah, it's just kept on going. People still remember it, and people still play it, and people still enjoy it.
But see, that's a gift because there are so many things. You can say something to somebody younger and they're like, I don't even know who that is. I'm like, okay, I feel old, but all right. And I don't know if that's because we have so many things thrown at us now. And I've talked when I was talking to Lamont, we were talking about the fact that sometimes people will take the cover song and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is a great song. It's the best song I've ever heard." And you're like, "It's not the original song. There's somebody else who did it." And then you have to explain it to them. But I think for you, I mean, you're in a cover band too, so you know what those classic songs are too. You were in that cover band, you know what the classic songs are, you know what's going to get people out on the dance floor and what still stood the test of time.
Yeah, it's hard picking the right songs to do, but yeah, when you get them, you just know every time you play them, everyone goes nuts.
And I mean, there's still some songs that are just like I mean, I can think of songs in the 80s that nobody would remember, but yet there's certain songs, like Turning Japanese, 99 Red Balloons, those songs that were dancey that you remember that could pull you out on the dance floor. And I think that also
My
has
Sh-
something to do with it. What?
my Sharona, my
Yes,
Sharona,
yes, yes, yes. Angel is a centerfold. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot that you could but then there's like Eddie Murphy's Party All the Time. You know, something that was just flash because Eddie Murphy did it and that was it. But at the time, MTV had that bad boy on rotation, and it was just kind of like, okay. Bruce Willis had songs. Nobody really remembers those anymore.
no one
So,
wants to remember.
yeah, exactly. I mean, but that's the thing. It's like music is weird because, especially back then, it was packaged for you. You had to have the video, you had to have everything packaged for you and then presented. And that was either going to make your career or it was going to break your career. And now I think music, because now you can release it yourself. You don't have to have the record label supporting you. And do you think that's a good thing, or do you think that's kind of one of those things where it's like,
No, I think the democratization of music is a good thing, and it's great that you can buy a computer for a few £100 and a program, and then make really high quality in terms of the quality of sound music, and put it out and get it out to so people on the other side of the world can listen to your music. I think that's fantastic, but don't expect to make any money from it.
no, no. I mean, that's the downside. It's like you have there's no longer the gatekeeper that says this is a hit, you can't release this song, it's trash, even though it may be something you love. And it's the same thing in the writing world. You can release a book, but you know what? You may not make anything from it. So you have to do it because it is your passion.
You have to, yeah, and hopefully you get something that, like I say, I love listening to our album. To me, I really enjoy the music, so
And
that's
you're,
kind of in a way.
what were you saying?
That's kind of enough in a way.
Yes, yes, it is. I didn't mean to talk over you. I wanted to talk to you about decompression too, because that song was kind of a powerful song, and I think when you look at the world, we are all just so wound so tightly that we do need to decompress. It's like we never really there's nothing. We're just wound tight, and that's what kind of I picked up on listening to the song. It was just like we need to decompress, but we don't do it. We just keep going and going and going and going. And I think that that's one big difference from when you started to where you are now is people are much wound much tighter than they used to be.
Yeah, people used to be a lot more relaxed, but there's so much stuff going on all the time now, and it's everywhere on the internet that it's just relentless, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So why did you play the sitar on Nothing Can Stop Us Now?
Well, do you know what? I'd love to say that we actually went and got a sitar and brought it into the studio, and I learned how to play it and everything. But it was one of the few technological things we used was a simulator, a sitar simulator. But initially I was a bit, that's not going to sound properly good, but I actually think it kind of sounds okay and
Mm-hmm.
quite like a sitar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like a sitar. I wouldn't have thought, and that's why I asked you, why did you play it?
I know I should have just made something up, shouldn't I, about how you had to restring it left-handed because it's the wrong way round and everything. But that
And
was just me making stuff up, so I'm not going to do that.
well, I appreciate the integrity because there's a lot of people that would have just said, "Oh yeah, you know." So one of your hobbies, pastimes is Chelsea Football Club,
It is, yes, indeed.
and one of your favorite places ties right into that, doesn't it? The stadium
What's
where they
that?
play.
Oh, Stamford Bridge.
Yeah. So that kind of ties in all together. So I take it when you're not playing music, that's one of your places you like to go.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been going there for over 50 years. I had a season ticket for 26 years now. Don't get there as much as I like because I'm always working on the days that normally play are Saturdays and Sundays and all do a lot of work and a lot of travelling on those days. But yeah, I love going. Me and my daughter go quite a lot as well together, which is really nice. And it's just a chance to get away from it all and just not think about anything other than the game.
And just kind of blend in with everybody. You don't have to,
Yeah.
you get to just be a fan. Um,
Yeah.
so you are going on tour. You're on tour. I know you have some UK dates, but you're coming over to the States this summer and you're touring with several people. What does it feel like when I know you played Cruel World back in 2023. What does it feel like when you're playing with all these other artists and it's very nostalgic. You're getting all these people together. Are you playing some of your new stuff too, or what do you plan on playing for that kind of set?
Well, I think we'll have to play stuff from the 80s, really. We haven't discussed it yet. The promoter doesn't really want to discuss things like that. We don't really know how long we're going to play for. Previously, we've played very short sets on the 80s tour, like 15 minutes. But we're a little higher up the bill. Maybe we'll get a little bit longer. We may be able to play one or two songs from the new album. We'll have to see. Until we arrive, we don't really know.
Wow. So you basically have how many days once you get to the States to plan this event? I mean, how many days did they give you to get this all in order?
I think we start on July the 31st. I mean, we'll probably arrive in America on like the 29th and
Okay.
have one rehearsal day and straight in.
Wow.
And we've done Lost 80s tours before, so we know how it works. And yeah, we completely relaxed about doing those kinds of shows.
Well, and you know the crowd's going to be favorable. You know the crowd knows you. The crowd's going to be
It's
there for
brilliant. I love doing those gigs. There's eight, nine, 10 acts on, and after a couple of weeks, you get to know people a bit. And I've still got so many friends from the 2019 Lost 80s tour that I'm still in contact with all the time. And yeah, it gets a real camaraderie about it, and everyone. It's a really enjoyable thing for me.
Yeah, I would love to go, but you guys aren't playing anywhere near Chicago, so it's like, okay, well,
Oh, the 2019 we did the big ballroom in Chicago.
okay.
Is
Well,
it Aragon Ballroom?
The Aragon
Yeah,
Ballroom, yeah.
we did it there. That's a shame we're not doing that again. That was fantastic. I
Yeah.
remember that one.
Aragon is a great place to play. I've heard. I haven't actually been there. I've been to the Vic. Um, there's a lot of different places down in Chicago to play. So yeah, it's unfortunate that you guys don't have a Chicago date because yeah, I'd
Yeah,
find a way to go because back in 2019 my husband was ill, so I wasn't necessarily doing things like that and then we had COVID. So um yeah. So maybe next time. Maybe next time you tour, maybe you guys
maybe
come through
next.
Chicago.
Yeah, I hope so. I love Chicago.
Yeah, it's not as how do I say this? We're not as cold as we used to be. We don't have as much snow as we used to. So, yeah. So, besides the tour, is there anything else that you guys are you going to make some more music videos or is the one video that's it?
Well, I think we're going to, after this Human Race single, we're going to do another single called Forever and Ever from the album. And yeah, I think we're definitely going to do a video for that for sure.
Okay.
And we'll
So,
see how that goes.
what are you looking most forward to in the next, I would say, the next 6 months?
I'm definitely looking forward to the 80s tour. That's
Now,
going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be warm all the time. There's a lot of outdoor gigs, which I love doing outdoor gigs. And it's just going to be, it's good. It's quite grueling because there's a lot of driving and a lot of traveling, but it's just the best fun. I mean, you see all the people just having, reliving their youth, basically.
well, and one thing I was going to say is, when people think of
As
tour
am I.
life, well, yeah. I mean, you get to relive your glory days, but with with a little bit of aches and pains with it, but that comes with getting older.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. When people think of touring, so are you guys on a bus? Are you guys doing a van? Are you guys flying places? What do you do? I know you got to fly over here, that I get, but
I mean, I think generally we're going to have what they call a splitter bus, where you have aircraft, maybe 9 aircraft seats and a table, and electricity and lights and TV, and not nothing too big, but comfortable. It's important that people can sleep while we're traveling because there's a lot of traveling.
yeah, Rich, my sound guy, has advised about being on those tour buses and how, it's kind of like being in a coffin. The bunks are because they're so small and tiny and
Yeah, we're not sleeping. We're not going not a sleeper bus. No,
okay.
these are quite smallish vans, really, but
Okay.
they're kitted out. So there's a little equipment space in the back, and then there's a middle bit which is kind of like a living room in a way,
Hmm.
with about 6 seats and electricity and lights and TV, and but we'd be sleeping in hotels. I don't know what sort of hotels, but yeah.
Are you giving the giving the way our country is over here? Are you leery about coming over at all?
Um, there's we've been warned about maybe not getting in.
Okay.
There's the government is saying that it's increased much super increased immigration stuff going on. So I'm just fingers crossed that hey, we're friendly. We just want to come and play some music. Yeah, a little bit nervous about that.
Yeah. And I sit here being in this country going, what the hell is going on? Because this is not what I voted for. But anyway, I don't want to get political, but that's it. I just look at it and go, I can't believe we are here, and I can't believe that our allies they're trying to make enemies, and that you have to go through such restrictions to come over here. It's ridiculous, but hopefully you guys won't have any problems.
Yeah, I mean, we do everything by the book, so hopefully everything will be fine. I don't think we're particularly the sort of people that would be targeted. I think there
No,
would be.
no,
I think if we've got all our visa work permits in order and everything, we've got our return flights and everything. It's this would be on my eighth visit to United States doing music. I mean, I've been quite a few more times than that. It'd be my eighth visit with the Vapors, so that's quite a lot. It's been all right up till now, so fingers crossed.
fingers crossed for sure. And I didn't mean to go that way, but it's just one of those things where it's like now it's a reality coming over here, and I would never have thought that in a million years. But yeah,
Yeah, here we are.
yep. So, is there anything that we have not talked about that you would like to talk about or add?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything, really.
Well, I wish you much success with the record, with your punk date,
Thank you.
your punk festival date, and of course with the tour.
Thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you.
It's been great chatting with you. So I know we got a little technical in this interview, and well, like I said, my sound guy, he's a bass player, and he had some sound questions, and Steve is a sound engineer as well. So I wanted to handle that. So sorry, folks, if it got a little bit tedious for you. But I think the Vapors, when you look at Steve, he's been in this music industry, like I said, since 1979. So he has been in through this in the long haul. Maybe not in the Vapors, but life has taught him a lot. And it's funny because if you look at his bio, one of the things he says about school is School of Hard Knocks. And when you look at the fact that, yeah, they had that career, they had that hit single, and suddenly the record company's gone, and now you have to figure out what you're doing, and the company that was supportive of you is not there anymore. So we've all been in situations, maybe not the record company, but we've all had a situation, whether it be a friend, a spouse, whatever, where you think you have that support, and in that moment, that support's gone. And so you have to figure out things, and maybe things end, and you don't know how all the, how to handle all this. Fortunately, he decided that his passion was music, and he was going to continue to make music in some form or fashion. And that's the one thing that I know in several episodes we've talked about the fact that you have to keep going, and you have to make things happen for you. You have to allow yourself to create the music you need when you need it, create the projects you want, create the art you want, and mainly create the life you want. Life has to be fulfilling. You have to decompress. You have to find a way to get rid of the stress. And as much as I love my cell phone, the more doing research and everything, it does change us. It gets us that dopamine hit. It changes. It gets you agitated about something in the news. And granted, yes, it's great to have all that instantaneous news, but at a certain point, it's a distraction, and you're not functioning the way you used to. And so when you look at your phone and it kicks you the weekly thing of how much time have you used your phone, you have to really stop and look at that and go, am I real? Yes, I'm attached to the internet. And yes, I'm attached to the outside world, but am I really living life? Or is my life convicted stopped with this phone? You can't go to a tour, you can't go to a concert and not see somebody holding up a phone to video it, you know. And granted, that's great. It's great because then they have that memory. But do you really have the memory, or because while you were living that memory, you're videoing it? And will you ever look at that video again? That's the quintessential question. But I am digressing. And I think that we need to start really paying attention to what we're passionate about. And that's the one thing while the Vapors have reunited, and he was surprised that they were coming back around and that they had made such an impression that that one song made the impression and could carry on. When you're passionate about something, it shows. And you have to remember that. Try to be passionate, try to be creative, and try to manifest and make that life that you want. Because everything we go through in every moment of the day can change at any minute. Everything can seem perfect and fall apart, but everything can be perfect and stay together for quite a while. It's up to you to see it as it is and to believe and to trust. And when you do, things become a lot easier. When you trust in the process and you trust that you've got this. And even if you're doing something, if you have a really bad job and you get to do something on the side that you actually love, you'll see how things change and how things shift. I was talking to somebody recently and I thought about how my friends always told me when you talk about your writing, you're passionate about it. That's true. It is because it's something I love doing. When I talk about bass playing, as much as I love playing the bass, it's not something that is a passion of mine. It's something I like doing on occasion, or used to, and it was more of a passion back then, but it was never a burning passion. When I talked about writing, that was it. So, what are you passionate about? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself if you're doing something that makes you happy. Because think about what he said. When they got the band back together, it was because they just wanted to have fun. It wasn't all the pressure of becoming this big rock star. It was just to have fun. And isn't life better when you're having fun? So, on that note, I'd like to thank Rich Zai from Third Year Audio, Productions from doing the sound. I'd like to thank Fast Susie for providing the intro and outro music. And I'd like to thank Steve for coming on the show. And most importantly, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. So, whether you're listening morning, noon, or night, I wish you'd have a great day. And I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye.